Perfect. I think we are live. So hi everyone. It's great to be here. It's great to sort of have you all here in the webinar today. My name is Piyush Ranjan. I'm the founder of Management Masters. We are a boutique admissions consulting firm for the top MBA programs worldwide. And we have had an excellent year of admits with multiple people getting admits from M7 schools, E7 schools, as well as ISB. And what we wanted to do was essentially bring a webinar to you, which helps future aspirants also understand what does it take to sort of be a successful applicant. So we have three candidates who worked with us this year, Manvi, Mahima, and Shreya. And they received admits from some of the best schools on the planet, right? So from Kellogg Business School, Kellogg School of Management to LBS, INSEAD, and ISB. So we have a very good mix of all continents represented here, as well as candidates who work with us in different capacities. Through the session, we will go into their journeys. We'll go into learning more about their journeys, the decisions they took, why they took those decisions, because I believe learning these things will also help you as future aspirants take very important calls as far as your MBA application strategy is concerned. Uh, Before we sort of get started with talking to Mahima, Manvi, and Shreya, very quickly I'll introduce myself. So as I said, my name is Piyush. I founded Management Masters in 2019, so it's almost been 7 years since we've been operational, and within that, we have helped more than 180 candidates get into top business schools around the world with almost $3 million in scholarships that they've earned. And at the same time, we are a three-people team with me and Aniket, who's based in Japan. We look after the global MBA application processes, whereas our third teammate is based in Mumbai, and he looks after the ISB admission process. Uh, we are also having two in-person events called Meet the Masters in Mumbai and Delhi in the coming 2 weeks. And if you would want to sort of meet, we will have a lot of our candidates who will be there to share their experiences with you. So if you'd like to sort of join us there in the in-person event, meet people face to face and ask your questions, understand their journeys, absolutely feel free to sign up for those events. For today, we have a final offer that we are providing a 33% off on all the tickets that are reserved for the event. And we'll be really looking forward to sort of have you there. Before we get started, again, final thing, feel free to sort of, as we go through the webinar, feel free to ask your questions to the participants. Whatever questions you have, you can drop them in the chat box and we'll pick it up as we go forward. But without further ado, let's get started. It will be great to get started with a very quick introduction from all of you. So, Manvi, let's start with you, and then we can go to Shreya and Mahima one by one. So, Manvi, would be great to have a very quick introduction from you.
Yep, thanks, Piyush. Hi, everyone. As Piyush mentioned, I'm Manvi. I'll be joining Kellogg in the fall of this year. For the past 4 years, have worked in consulting, and currently I work with a fintech startup in their credit team. As for my education, I did my undergrad from Ashoka, did a major in economics, and born and brought up in Delhi. That's sort of about it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Shreya, could we have a very quick introduction with you?
Sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Shreya and I'm from Kolkata. I have done my BTech from BITS Pilani, then moved on to join Unilever, worked there for 4 years. I'll be joining, after my stint at Unilever in supply chain, I will now be joining LBS in fall of 2026.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Mahima, would be great to hear from you.
Sure, thank you so much. So I am Mahima Rankar, born and brought up in Raipur, Chhattisgarh. Like Shreya, I am also a Bitsian. Did my bachelor's in pharmacy from BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. In the last 5.5 years, I've been part of Amazon in 3 different management domains, namely operations, category, and global program management. And currently, I am looking forward to join ISB in next 5 to 6 days. So yeah. Excited to talk to everyone.
Perfect. Thank you. And Mahima is just sort of, she was working on an assignment from ISB and she sort of left that to sort of join us. So thank you so much for that. Before we sort of get started, I would want to get started with one most common question. And I think one of the foundation sort of elements of B school applications, and that is the test prep, right? All of you have had to take the GMAT or the GRE while preparing for the MBA applications. And obviously, for some of you, it might have been an easier journey. For some of you, I know it has been a much more difficult journey, right? So, could you just walk us through what was the test prep strategy? Okay, let's start with what tests did you choose and why did you choose those tests? And what was the approach that you took to preparing for the exams, right? Maybe we get started with Mahima.
Sure. So, I think I took GMAT, which the GMAT focus one. But if I had known that there was GRE also at the start, wherein the scores are applicable, I think I would have taken GRE and spent a lot of my preparation there. So I think my suggestion to people here would be that identify, like, give a random mock for both GMAT and GRE. Understand which is more intuitive to you. Some people do say that GRE is easier because the math is very easy as compared to GMAT. But it ensures to the GRE as a exam ensures to that to keep that difficulty level as a part to the GMAT one. It depends on how you as a person are looking at it. And basis whichever exam you decide, I think you should explore all the free tests from the online self-paced courses or the weekend classes, or even I have heard that people do take self tutoring or like one-on-one tutoring and try to find out which works best for them. When if I look back, I used to call people and ask which is the best coaching institute. I think that was the wrong mistake I did, because every person is different, and every whatever works for me might not work for Manvi or Shreya, right? And vice versa for me. So I would suggest people to explore what resources they have, what time they have, and then make a conscious decision of uh, putting out like going on the right path.
Right. Thank you for that. Shreya, anything that you'd want to add to how you sort of approached your journey? Why did you take GMAT? And how did you go about preparing for it?
Yeah, it's more or less similar on the lines of what Mahima said, right? Taking a sample mock will really, really help a person to understand what their strengths are. For example, coming from an engineering background, my strength was primarily in the quant section. So I knew GMAT would sort of give me, like, it will be easier to prep for, given I was also looking at a relatively constrained timeline. So I had to give it within 2 months. So it's always useful to do take one mock test. It will also give you a feel of how both the exams are. Then you also understand what are your strengths and where you can sort of play that lever. So that is a very good advice from her, and I would also like second that.
Thank you for that. Manvi, I'll change the question a bit for you. What would you say was, the one thing that helped you the most while you're preparing for your GMAT?
Two things. One is one thing, part of your test prep that's non-negotiable is practice exams, not mocks that you take in the beginning, but mocks that you take once you've gone through the concepts and you know how to solve the questions. Because a key part of any test is time management. I've taken the GMAT and GRE both, and this is something that sort of applies to both tests. So mock tests, not just one or two of them, but 8 to 10, 12 of them is something that is non-negotiable. That's one thing. And the second thing is, I've always said this with any standardized testing, it is a mental game. So you've really got to believe with every fiber that you've got the test wrapped around your finger, and you've really got to work on your attention span. I think that is one thing that is key, that only comes with taking mock tests, especially with the GMAT. Your attention wavers for even 1 second and you've missed something that's critical to solving the question. So mock tests, and then through mock tests, developing the muscle of actually holding your attention for 2 hours. These two things are, I think, very key part of test prep.
Right. let me go to the next part of it, right? Because all three of you had a very different strategy when it came to, applying for the global MBA programs. While Manvi was primarily focusing on US schools, I believe Shreya, you applied primarily to European schools, and Mahima, you had your eyes set only on ISB, right? So if you could just help us walk through, what led to those decisions and what exactly made you choose or go in this direction with respect to your choice of B schools that you wanted to apply to. Uh, let's start with Shreya this time.
Sure. So, Piyush, if I could say what were the dominant factors, right? There were primarily three of them. First was the fact that I was very sure that I wanted a global MBA. That means that I want to be able to shift around in different locations throughout my career. So, I believe that European MBA really gives you that upper hand in terms of having like a global career path ahead of you, also because your cohort is much more diverse. So that was one. Second was also the geopolitical scenario of US was not giving me the sort of confidence that I would want to sort of take a decision and place all bets on that particular place. And third was, of course, the I have some friends and family, so that sort of emotional ecosystem is already there in some parts of Europe, where I can fall back on in case it is required. So these were the three levers which made me primarily apply only to European schools.
Okay. And Mahima, what sort of led you to sort of say, okay, I'm going to focus only on ISB as my primary target?
Right. So, for me, I was very clear that I want to stay in India and I want to do MBA from a top B school. So these two were non-negotiable for me. While ISB was the one and only target in my mind, but I do have learned that not to keep all eggs in one basket. So I did like worked and researched on while I worked with ISB with you on ISB, I did apply to IIM ABC, the 1 year exec program, wherein because I had 5.5 years of experience, so I was eligible for the all three. So I kept these four in my mind. And ISB was something wherein I gave all my heart and soul into, because like very obvious reasons, right? It's the best B school in India, not just in India, it's 12th best in the entire world as per the latest FT rankings. It gives access to not just India but entire global ecosystem. So that related to what I wanted to be. I'm a very emotional person. I have a very like emotional family. I was sure I want to be just like 1-2 hours away from my family wherever I am. I didn't want like time zone differences. So yeah, I think ISB was best of both worlds for me, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense, especially when ISB is 12th now in the world,
Yeah.
right? As per the latest FT
As
rankings.
per the list.
So coming to Manvi, right? Your primary focus, when we started discussing was you want to go outside, go for a global MBA. And
Yeah.
could you just walk us through what actually sort of led you to that decision?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to echo a little bit of what Shreya said as well. I didn't look at India because I wanted to be part of a class that had people from, everywhere in the world. With Kellogg, I read somewhere that they have people from 100 countries or 110 countries, right? So facts like these sort of drew me to schools outside of India. That's one. And again, falling back on what Shreya said about the geopolitical situation, I applied to 4 schools, 1 in Europe and 3 in the US. The one in Europe, which was INSEAD, which was that was my top choice. It's a separate matter that didn't work out. Other than that, honestly, what was going through my mind was that if I'm going to be, because the MBA is not a small commitment, time-wise or bank account-wise. So in my mind, the only thing I was thinking of was if I'm going to be making that kind of investment, then it has to be worth it. And for me, the only way it's worth it is if you are going to one of the best schools in the world. Otherwise, to me, it's hard. And that's just my opinion. I am not, sort of passing any remark on anyone else who makes a different decision, right? So despite the geopolitical situation and the uncertainty, for me, the best business schools in the world are still in the US, which is why my approach was very much US centric.
That's right. Makes sense. And now, coming to the next bit of it, what would you say, since obviously you've had a very long sort of application season, Manvi, I think we spent almost 6, 7 months working on the application, the entire process, right? From, building up your stories to sort of applying and then doing the interviews and getting the results. I think it took us almost 7 to 8 months overall, right? Similar would be for Shreya. And Mahima, you also had a very, very sort of longish sort of journey in the entire application area. Uh, what would you say, each of you, what were the most challenging aspects of the application process that you found? And how did you sort of try to overcome those? Or what helped you overcome that? This time, let's start from Manvi and then we can
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah, of course. The most challenging part of all of application season was consistency. You've got to, like, it doesn't matter if you're only able to write 50 words or 100 words. You have to work on your applications every single day, especially in those last 3, 4 months leading up to deadlines. And what that really comes down to is a lot of discipline and a lot of not negotiating with yourself. If you said you're going to churn out a draft today, cancel everything else to make that happen, and everything else sort of comes around it. You have to churn out that draft today, and it is a lot more difficult than it sounds. So that is one thing. What helped me get through application season was also taking time out of applications, because working on your MBA apps is a full-time job with the full-time job that you already have, which leaves you zero time with yourself. And the other, difficult part about it is keeping yourself sane throughout the whole time. And in order to do that, you have to take time out for yourself. So you do your full-time job, you come back home, you work on your applications, but make sure you're taking that 1 hour out to work out, to do something that, genuinely makes you happy, to spend time with your friends, spend time with your family, whatever it is, whatever that you like to do. I think that is something that really helped me. So just being disciplined and not compromising on doing something for yourself are the two things that I would say worked for me.
Okay, makes sense. I think Shreya had some technical difficulty, so she'll be back soon. Mahima, what would you say was the most challenging part of the entire application journey for you?
Got it. So, for me, story is quite different from what Manvi experienced. So, if I may break down the application process into essay writing, interview, and the wait. So, for me, I'm a writer, I'm a creative person, and I have had these dream of MBA since I was a kid. So, stories and application and writing was, very intuitive on me, and like, even on LinkedIn, I am just become a LinkedIn addict where I'm just writing my thoughts. So I think writing was very easy for me. Interview was also not much of a big hassle. I think for me personally, and Piyush, you have known the journey of what I have been through during the ISB time. I think the most difficult pain was the wait, because to give people here a bit of context, I think I gave R2 application on 7th December 2025. And in December, January, and I think almost mid of Feb, when everyone was done with their interview, getting their shortlist, even R3 interviews have been started rolling in. I had no SIP shortlisting in process status. It was just verified on the ISB portal. So keeping that conviction in myself that, hey, I am worth it, and ISB has to call me for 2.5 months with some personal difficulties going on in my life was a very big thing. And I very clearly remember mid-December, Piyush, you had taken one session with all of us wherein you had said that, in across world, ISB has the most complicated and convoluted process. And I was like, ठीक है, पीयूष बोल रहा है कितना ही difficult होगा, मतलब ठीक है थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे होगा, but it was absolute crazy. So if anyone is applying to ISB, I would just say that, do not lose hope. Do not go to Reddit, do not go to WhatsApp. I did all that, even though Piyush said no, because when anxiety comes on you, you do everything and anything to, get some clarity in life.
They
But
get more.
yeah, yeah. So it just amplifies. So I would just say, be very sure on whatever you have done, and just hope for the best, because there's nothing you can control, and keep that faith on, is I would suggest people.
Right. No, makes sense. And all said and done, ISB is still, 12th in the world as per the latest FT rankings.
Yeah.
So Okay, just to clarify for all the viewers, this is not a remark on ISB or any snide remark. This is the kind of person that I am. I like making jokes. And I think Manvi and Mahima both have had quite a lot of, they've heard all the satire and sarcasm from me all throughout.
Yeah.
But coming to Shreya, what would you say was the most challenging part in terms of managing the applications and working on them?
While I completely agree with what Manvi and Mahima just said, right? Consistency and then not giving into that anxiety is a very major part of like the process. For me, the most difficult part was introspection and having that well-knit story that sort of, so today every MBA applicant, one of the best parts of applying to such programs like this is that we know our story, where we come from, why we did what we did, and how it all boils down to why an MBA, right? But when you join in and when you start the process, it's all in a lot of bits and pieces, and I believe it's like a puzzle. So you have to like properly fit every piece to make a very nice sort of journey. So that was very difficult for me, where I had to sort of I had a very large whiteboard in my room, and I had to write all the different parts of my life, the stories, and then try and understand how this knits out to be one proper sort of understanding for the adcom, to give them a view of who I am and where I come from and why I want to pursue this journey. So that was quite a challenging task for me.
Right. Uh, was there any aspect of your candidature that you were very apprehensive about? And what actually do you believe helped you finally stand out within your applications?
Okay, so
Yeah,
with respect
let's
to
start with you.
yeah. So with respect to aspects of a candidature, so my GMAT score was 695, which is decent, but not in the top percentile. So I remember pinging people on LinkedIn left, right, center, asking them, is this even decent enough, or should I like reapply and sort of give the test? But most people all told me that this kind, I'm in the comfortable quantile, but at the same time there was some set of risk because of the engineering. Like I had a very generic profile till my studies part of it. What really helped me stand out was, I believe, my work experience, because I worked in a factory, and I handled a large team. So those leadership lessons, those being the youngest leader in that particular forum, leading a large team, all of this I believe stood out, which helped me sort of break through the process. But like I was really scared about the score part of it, ki hoga ki nahi hoga. I remember pinging like 10-15 people ki, is score really important? And I think because of the engineering background also, we tend to over index on the score part of the application, but it is really your entire profile that counts. So yeah.
Okay, so now the next question is going to be from Mahima, and Mahima knows why.
Yeah.
So, what was the most uh, apprehension? What was the biggest apprehension that you had about your candidature? And finally, what did you think, actually helped you stand out?
Right. So I think similar to Shreya, it was GMAT, but if I look at my GMAT, it was 635. So like Ananya Pandey's dialogue is sorry, Ananya Pandey को someone said, right, जहाँ से तुम्हारे सपने शुरू होते हैं वहाँ हमारे struggle end होते हैं. So I was in that phase. So I was very scared if like 635 is ISB average or maybe less than that. Will I still get in? Uh, but yeah, all said and done, there were three major pieces in my story which I had very much surety on. Like I was putting my conviction on. One was my academic background. So I had 999 profile in 12th, 10th, 12th, and I think 10th does not matter in ISB, but still 10th, 12th, and the college I had 9 on 10 CGPA. So I had thought that okay, if my GMAT is a bit lower, schools would see that she has been a consistent academic performer in her life. Second, the Amazon experience. I had ensured in the last 5.5 years in my Amazon career that I have diverse experience, like that had my own challenges in terms of growth, because I didn't stay in one single team across 5 years. But I was very sure that I wanted to have a bit of, hands-on experience. Like Shreya had factory experience, I had on-floor operations experience. I also ventured into category management, wherein I manage brands like Prestige and Havells, which had 700 crore annualized revenue to Amazon, and different kinds of projects. So I was very sure that I bring on table a lot of practical hands-on experience from Amazon. And I think third is the clarity from why I want to do an MBA from both a personal side and a professional side. And that I think reflected in the essays which we curated together. So these three things I think helped me stand out, which a less score would not have kind of prevented me. So
Right. Makes a lot of sense. And I think we had massive discussions around this. Should you apply? Should you not apply? Should you
yeah,
take a call? And so that was quite intense discussions that we had, I think, before you even started on this. Manvi, coming to you, right? What would you say was your biggest apprehension as you went into the application process?
Yeah.
And what helped you finally stand out?
Yeah. So like Mahima and Shreya both, my GMAT, I had a 685, which is again decent. And I remember till I think July of last year, Piyush and I were like, हाँ retake करेंगे, retake करेंगे. I'll start studying. Did nothing, which is fine. I didn't have to in the end also. It worked out well. But yes, my GMAT was definitely my biggest apprehension. I also want to say that with the MBA applications, there's nothing like a spike. Like Shreya said, they look at everything holistically, and spike or something is something you're probably used to listening to with your resume for your placements or whatever it is. There's nothing of that sort. Having said that, I do think there were two parts of my application that helped me stand out. The first is my work experience. I spent the first 2.5 years in consulting, where my growth in the firm was sort of pretty steep. It was slightly ahead of my peers as well. So we were able to bring that out nicely. And then after that, I moved into working for this fintech startup where I've been able to get a lot of international exposure through my travel, through the global team that I'm a part of and everything. So I think that is something that that we were able to highlight as well. And the second thing would be my extracurriculars. I actually, and it's not something I did intentionally. I just really enjoy doing a lot of stuff outside of work. I enjoyed that in college. I enjoyed that at work as well. So I think the plethora of extracurriculars that I had on my resume, we were able to describe them very nicely, and I think they added a fair amount of richness to my application. So yeah, I would say those.
So to refer back to this conversation, you recall the first time we had the profile evaluation call,
Yes.
and Manvi essentially said to me that I don't have any extracurriculars, right? And as we started discussing more and more, then it came out she actually does a lot of things, but she thought that they were not very relevant for MBA applications, right? She does pottery on the side. So how will that help an MBA application? So could you just talk us through about what happened there? What did you take away from that conversation and through the journey since then?
Yeah. I think in my mind, initially when I spoke to you, Piyush, my definition of extracurricular was very different from yours and also very different from what business schools usually look at. Extracurricular is just anything you do outside of your regular work. That could mean stuff at work. That could mean taking training for new hires, or I don't know, helping with hiring, or whatever it is, right? Which I did do a fair bit of, except in my mind, I was like, okay, yeah, this is not really extracurricular. So that's one thing. The second thing, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. The second thing was that the lens from which I started looking at stuff I'd done was community, which is how did you work with people and how did what you do bring together different people. So after my first call with Piyush, he told me, he was like, compile a list of everything that you've done that sits outside of your immediate work, and think about it, write the basic stuff. When did you start? When did you end? How many months, hours per week, all of that stuff. And he was like, think about it from the perspective of how you added to the community or how you involved those around you in whatever you were doing. So I put together this table with some 8, 9, 10 different rows, and sat introspected, and I shared this with him, and he was like, बढ़िया, इसके बाद और कुछ नहीं चाहिए. And yeah, we littered all of that throughout the essays, throughout the application, and I think that added a very nice touch to the overall profile.
Right. Thank you so much for that. I think what we'll also do before we sort of go further, we have a list of questions that a lot of our viewers actually sent to us before we started with the webinar. So let me just take a few questions from there. I think that could help us really a lot. One question that we had was, if I have worked only with small firms or in startups, is that sufficient for top MBA programs? Second, will it be able to compete with people from big brands who have worked with big brands? So essentially, people who are coming like Mahima and Shreya, you have worked with Amazon, Unilever, really, really big brands. So would startup experience or small firms be able to sort of compete with that? I think maybe Manvi, would you want to sort of comment on that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something that I do feel a little bit strongly about, because I am someone who doesn't have big brands on her name, on her profile. And I just want to say, I think this is a complete myth. I feel like ye apne dimag se bahar nikal do. There are people who have big brands on their profile who have not gotten into any business school, and then there are also people like me who have, right? It's less about the name of the place where you work and more about how you highlight and talk about what you have done. That's basically it. That's all I have to say. And I think sometimes being part of a startup or being part of a smaller team can actually work in your favor, because you are one of 10 people or 20 people, which means you've done a lot more than someone who's one of 200 or 250, right? You get a lot more responsibility, you get a lot more face time with leadership. You do work that is, I don't know, just a lot, or can be a lot more impactful in some cases. Again, I'm not saying that those who have brand names on their resume don't do work that's impactful, but all I'm saying is what matters more is how you talk about your experiences and how you describe what you have learned from them, rather than the names on your resume.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. Mahima and Shreya, because you've already been part of your cohort, you've probably already connected with a lot of people from your network. Anything that you would want to add to this, or anything that you've seen while talking to other people who have come from different companies that you'd want to add to this?
Yeah, I can go first. So I completely agree with Manvi that it's a complete myth. And I am a strong believer that, like anything in life, it's not what happens to you, it's what you make out of it. So, and MBA schools are exactly looking at that, right? It's about everyone has their unique journey, whether you have brands, if you don't have brands. If you have brands, you have done something to get it. If you have not, maybe it was a conscious decision. I personally know a lot of people who said, we don't want to work in an MNC, we want to start in a startup, which is have the 0 to 1 experience. So it's about how you actually put it. And as part of ISB cohort, I am seeing a lot of like diversity from, I mean, there's a doctor with us, there's a lawyer, multiple lawyers with us. There are so many startups which I have had not heard of, but when I have spoken to them, I am like really interested that, okay, this sort of thing also exists and the kind of work they have done. So along with having the brand people on it. So again, it's a myth. It's on you to understand what your profile is and how do you want to market it and show it to the MBA school that, you know, you are worth sitting in that classroom and adding your unique perspective, which no one else could have brought to the table.
Right. Anything you would want to add to that, Shreya?
And more or less on the similar lines, like basically your MBA application is specifically on the work X part is what impact you could create that can be impact anywhere and any at any part of size of organization. And on a lighter note, I actually feel that people who work in sort of startups or a smaller sort of sized firm, they have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of exposure in different aspects of any particular function, right? For example, in a Unilever, or maybe Mahima also can tell, in a Amazon, the amount of resistance or inertia there is to shift from one vertical to another is not there in a startup, which is why at this point of time, in between my job and getting into an MBA, I am actually looking to work for startups so that I can actually get that breadth of experience. So I, on the contrary, believe it's an advantage if we can actually use it to be one.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I hope that answers that question. We got that question from multiple people. One more question that I would want to go for before we sort of move forward is okay. So we had a lot of questions on uh, is it good or bad if somebody has remained in the same company for multiple long years, like 4 years or 5 years? So is that seen positively, negatively? I think we have more than enough proof here that it doesn't really matter so much. Mahima spent 5.5 years at Amazon. Shreya has said spent almost 4 years at Unilever. So uh, I think that is very clear. Uh, let's go to one more question, and that is, what do you mean by profile, or when looking at the context of MBA applications? Because you always hear things like, how can you improve your profile, right? So what exactly does profile improvement mean in the context of MBA applications, and what does that profile actually constitute of? So anybody wants to take that up, or?
I can take it up.
Sure.
So I got a very good advice from one of my seniors when I was going through this process. She told me that you should actually look at your application from the perspective of an adcom. So for an adcom, a interesting profile will be some profile that can add value to a cohort which has people from multiple backgrounds. So anything and everything which will sort of enrich your experience or add value to any kind of classroom discussion will be, I know it's a little vague in terms of answers, but I genuinely believe every profile is different, and everyone can add value in a very different way. So strengthening your profile, for example, I come from a very ops background, which is which was my sort of strength, because majority of the people are either consultants or bankers, right? So I doubled down on the ops part of my application, vis-a-vis anyone who may be very strong in their extracurriculars part, which was not very strong for my case. So that is what I interpret it as. Maybe someone can add in.
Yeah, Mahima, do you want to? Because we had Mahima and Manvi, both of you, we also had profile evaluation sessions together, right? So I would be very curious to understand how you sort of interpret profile and what actually did it do for you in terms of, improving your profile as such.
Got it. So, before coming to the profile evaluation, I just wanted to add one more point to Shreya,
Yeah.
in which she mentioned how to improve the profile. So, I think why business schools look at the overall profile apart from your work and academics is to see that you are not just a person who is focused on one set of things, and you are a human being, right, at the end of the day. So, I really liked which Manvi said earlier, that she did pottery because she liked it. So, if you have enough time before your application, if it's not like in just 2-3 months, kind of think back and see what you actually enjoy doing about, because it'll be easier to fit that into your story, because it'll come very intuitively and naturally to you when the application or the interview time comes.
Yeah.
Um, Coming to your question, Piyush, on the profile evaluation call. So while for the people here, I applied in 2025, but I think my first call with Piyush was in 2024, wherein in that call, I had gotten a feedback of two pieces that while the extracurriculars were fine, for me, the clarity of post MBA goals was a very like ambiguous answer from my side. And at that time, Piyush gave feedback that you should be very clear on why MBA. Why do you want to do MBA if you are already at Amazon? And why can't you go into product at Amazon? I mean, that's the most coveted post MBA goal. And it actually helped me think back on the entire personal and professional journey of my life, and which helped me get clarity by in the next 1 year. So for me personally, the profile evaluation call helped me in the clarity which I spoke in the previous answer as well, in the standing out piece. I think if not for that call, I might not have dig down deeper into my whole profile on where I was, what I'm doing right now, and what ISB or any B school will help to achieve whatever I want in life. So yeah, clarity on post MBA goals and what मैं कर क्या रही हूँ life में has been the most biggest takeaway in the profile evaluation call.
Thank you for that, Mahima. Anything you would want to add, Manvi?
Not
Like, if
much.
think of it, I'll rephrase the question a bit.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to you and says, okay, I want to improve my profile for an MBA because I'm planning to apply for MBA applications, like, what would you suggest them, or what would be the approach that you would suggest them to follow?
So if someone is coming to me right now and they're saying, oh, I want to apply this year and I want to improve my profile, I would actually say, abhi kuch nahi kar sakte. Jo ho gaya hai, ho gaya hai. Like, what you've done, you've done. You can't do anything to change the past. You don't have enough time to do something meaningful enough or for long enough, impactful enough till the time that you have to apply, right? So in that case, what you can do is reflect back on the last 4 or 5 years, think about what you've done, and think about how you can bring that out in the best way possible. And
So you're meaning to say, if I'm sorry to interrupt, but basically what you're saying is that presentation of your profile is equally important,
correct.
apart from what you have, just the doing part of it.
Yes, correct. And the way you can think about it, basically think about your life across 3 or 4 pillars. One would be your academics, so that would include college, GMAT. Your scores are your scores. That's fine. You can't do anything to change that. The second thing would be your work experience, which would obviously include the industry, the kind of work that you're doing. But very importantly, leadership, right? What sort of leadership values have you gathered? What leadership lessons have you learned? So that's your work experience. The third thing is extracurriculars, which involves people, community, other parts of your personality, what you enjoy. Like I really enjoy doing art, so we brought out a lot of that as well. And then I think the fourth thing is more softer parts of your personality, who you are as a person. So are you a thinker? Are you a creative person? Are you do you work best in a team? So again, what are the strongest parts of your personality that you would like to bring out and you would like for the admissions officer to know? So yeah, I think just think of your profile as something that stands on these 3 or 4 pillars. Think about what are the strongest aspects within each bucket and what you would like to talk about. And I think that's basically it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Before we go into more questions from the audience, let's come back to our own discussion a bit. And I would really want to understand, because all three of you work with us, but you also work with us for very different kind of services. Shreya, you came in only for help with interviews. Mahima, you came in for the ISB package that we have, and Manvi worked end to end with us, for multiple applications to global schools. So I would really want to understand sort of, one, why did you decide to work with us? What was the idea that sort of convinced you, or that said, okay, Piyush or Management Masters is a firm that you should be looking at. And second, how was your experience and what did you think we did well while working together? So anybody who wants to take the lead, I don't want to name names here.
Sure, I can go. And in fact, Piyush and I were just talking about this literally, I think 40 minutes ago. Um, the reason I started working with Piyush was that a senior of mine from college worked with him last year. She's at Columbia right now. And I was just speaking to her. I asked her, I was like, is he good? She was like, he's great. And I was like, okay, done. That's it. So I didn't speak with any counselor. I didn't do my research. I just went ahead with Piyush. If you're doing that for Piyush, I feel like that's the right decision. Maybe you want to do some research if you're looking at other counselors. Um, that's how I decided. Not the most, not the
Okay,
best way,
so
but it worked out. Yeah.
let me sort of change the question a bit for you. What convinced you to work with us? So because
Yeah.
even the process for working with us is not that straightforward. We'd go for the
Yes.
profile evaluation. I ask you to
Yes.
pay separately first, and then sort of we go for the bigger thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of paywall that I bring in to the table, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of candidates are not happy about actually. Uh, so what convinced you, apart from that word of mouth that you received?
Yeah.
Okay, I seem like, or Management Master seems like a good firm to sort of work
Yeah.
together on your applications.
Well, obviously, stats are one thing, right? Which is something that I had looked at. But that is just the sort of superficial, surface level stuff. What convinced me was my first conversation with Piyush. And obviously, it works two ways. Piyush was looking at me as someone that he thinks is worth working with. And I was also looking at Piyush as someone, or I was also evaluating Piyush in a similar way. What convinced me was that Piyush, or I felt Piyush is very straightforward. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He doesn't tell you something just because it'll make you feel better, or he thinks it's the polite thing to do, or he feels like he's not being rude. He'll give it to you straight, which is, to be honest, what you need for this process. You would rather have someone who tells you the truth and fix things and get them done right than someone who will sugarcoat it for you and then you don't get the outcome in the end. I don't think I needed anything more than that. That was convincing enough for me. Yeah.
Right. And what do you think we did best as we went through the application process?
I'll tell you what. So Piyush's, the entire process is quite rigorous, and the rigor starts building up very, very early, which is in April or May. And Piyush starts off by these 4 workshops that he does that for me, I think were very tough because they involve a lot of introspection about your life and what you've done. And it's a lot tougher than it sounds because you have to think about everything completely differently in a way that you've not thought about. Everything that you've done, you have to think about why you did it, what you learned from it, what went well, what didn't go well, and it's much harder than it sounds. So you do this over these 4 intense sessions that Piyush does with you, and that essentially sets up the foundation of everything after and makes all of your essay writing and filling out your applications so much easier because you've already spent that time building so much material that you constantly keep referring back to when you're writing your essays or you're filling out your applications. The latter is what people usually think is the tough part, and it is, except the process that Piyush has set up makes it so much easier because you work together to put together so much material, and things just sort of flow from there.
Sounds pretty nice. Thank you so much for that. And let's come to Shreya, right? Because Shreya, you sort of worked with somebody else for your applications, but then you decided to come to sort of for your mock interviews, you decided to approach us. So if you could just sort of walk us through that decision process.
So for me, Piyush, it was quite a story because I came mid-application, right? So when my applications were done, I had received the interview invites, and then I sort of approached you for the mock interviews. The primary reason being that I, again, just like Manvi, did not do a lot of research. I just went in with the first consultant, whoever I could find, and just start the process because I was constrained on the timelines. Going back in time, I would actually want people to do a little bit of research so that they can take the decision properly.
And then
However,
come to me.
and then come to you. However, what really, what was irking me sort of is the fact that while application gives you a view of how the candidate is, I believe interview is a really make or break part of the process where they actually get to meet you in person and make a judgment of how what value add you will be, right? So for me, it was very important to work with someone who had first of all been through the process earlier and knows exactly what I am lacking and where I need my preparation to be in. So that was one where I found management masters through LinkedIn. And then what really changed like in the sort that made me sure that I want to work with you was my first conversation with you, where you were really upfront and you were really sort of, I didn't feel like you wanted to uh, sort of take advantage. Instead, you were like, it's a mutual this thing process, and we real like you made yourself as if you are a part of my process as well, right? So I remember I had asked you, so should I take two mock interviews for LBS and two mock interviews for INSEAD? And you had suggested, no, you just take one for INSEAD, and then if you require another, we will add it up. So that really built in that sort of trust that yes, you are here to sort of do what's best for me. That was what sort of helped me going on with the mock interview process with management masters. And what I believe you really did well was the fact that I felt that the connect with beat Aniket, or I also did a INSEAD interview with someone who was an INSEAD alum. So the connect was not only just for that 1 hour, but I could actually, first of all, they made the time to go through my profile, read the application, understand what my strengths and weaknesses were. They gave me very good feedback that genuinely helped me during the interview, and even after the interview they were a part of my process. So when I converted, both of them said that in case you need any help, so I'm still in touch with them. So being a part of your entire journey was really important for me. So that really stood out.
Thank you so much. That's very, very kind of you. Mahima, let's come to you because I think our association has been almost completes 2 years now, right? Because you came in for the 25 intake and we said, nahi, abhi mat karo. And then we sort of started in December last year after almost 1.5 years. So if you could sort of, why did you sort of stick to, कि management masters के साथ ही करना है? And how was the end experience for you? Because we also had a very, very sort of tight application timeline, I believe.
Right. So I think I have three points to add. First is unlike Manvi and Shreya, because I had time, I did explore a lot of not a lot of, but a few consultants. Piyush, I got to know from a friend who's in Wharton right now, and also I am active on LinkedIn. Piyush is super active on LinkedIn, and his posts kind of like reading them kept me saying that okay, things are not as bad as what is it in my mind. So yeah, I think the profile. So I think one of a friend who's in Duke right now told me that finding the consultant for you is like finding the right. I mean, like for a better example, but a therapist, because your vibe should match, right? Like as a person, I need critical feedback. I need whatever the worst feedback you can give, so that I have time to work on it, so that I am best during the interview or the application. Like someone, either of Manvi or Shreya said that you don't sugarcoat. And I think for me as a person, I really wanted that. Some people might not have that, and I think to each its own. So across 4 or 5 people I went across, I think I got the very super straight answer, and also the philosophy of win-win, that you always said that it's a win-win, right? Like you getting into ISB is not just for me, it's for you also. You are equally invested in it. So that kind of kept me in the loop. And why just management masters in the last 1 year? Because that the profile evaluation call, although it was very hard on me after I ended that 1 hour conversation with you. But
With
then
your parents.
yeah, with my parents. Yeah, so fun fact, I had my parents because they are educational counselors and they have been invested in my life forever, and like we are super close like that. So yeah, it was a very hard conversation for me that day. But looking back, I think I am grateful for it because, as I mentioned before, right, it helped me gain a lot of clarity. So yeah, and so I did take the ISB Edge program, which Piyush offers, and I came, I just 2 to 3 weeks before my application. I think 20 days or like 15, 20 days something. So Piyush and Gopala were very, very kind to accommodate me in those like very harsh timelines. Somehow we did it. I think Gopala was with me almost every day. I used to write application first draft. He used to edit it, and we used to manage our times. So I think what Gopala really, really helped me was being there. And also, I had a lot of stories in my mind, but it was all scattered all over the place, right? And whatever I wanted to convey was not coming in the right way possible. Like it wasn't coming in the right flow. What I learned from the application essays journey is that you need to have a proper start, mid, and then end, and then future of. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you need to have a flow, which Gopala really helped me with. He was there to listen, like so I think ISB has three essays, personal one, professional one, and there's an optional one. So in personal and professional, I had a lot of stories in my mind, but how do I flow it? How do I stitch it into making a right story? Was really helpful, and then editing it and kind of bringing out the flavor it is supposed to show it to the adcom. So that was really great, especially in that tight 14 days timeline. And another aspect of ISB Edge, which I would want to highlight, which really helped me, was along with the detailed PDFs and walkthrough sessions of essays and applications. What really helped me was ISB Edge lets you connect with a lot of people who are applying to ISB. So apart from the mocks, which we had taken officially with ISB alum, and the consultants who were helping us, we also worked with each other. Like in the, I think we had, I don't remember the number of people who were there in the group, but we connected with some of
There were
them.
like 8 to 10 of you.
Yeah, and then we had like so we had a separate group, Piyush. We made Piyush make a separate ISBH group wherein we coordinated that कौन free है for XYZ time, and then we connected. We took a mock, like a peer mock interviews, and that really helped to make peace at heart and also understand, okay, what different perspectives my profile can get, because everyone was working with different people, different consultant, different alums or whoever. So it really helped to improve that bond. And fun fact is, I think three of us are going to Mohali, and we already know each other. So we are not in that feeling that we are entering into a strange land. We already have a community. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think ISB Edge is a very good program, is what I would suggest to people.
That's absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. भाई इतना marketing मैंने नहीं किया है SBH का जितना आज महिमा ने किया है.
मेरे को जीपे कर देना आप.
तुम्हारे जीपे से पहले बाकियों का जीपे आना चाहिए. But jokes aside, thank you so much for this. This has been great. I think one question that has been coming up on the chat was, and we had this question earlier as well. So very, very interesting question. Now that all three of you have been through your journeys, you've had your admits and everything, and you have a lot more perspective about MBA applications now than you had before. Is there anything that you would change in your profile if you had the chance to sort of redo this?
I think mine is very obvious. GMAT score. I mean, I would have prepared it. Sorry, I just took the first go because it'll be
No
short
worries,
and
no
simple.
worries.
I think GMAT score is what I could have improved. I could have planned my work and study in a proper manner, because what I realized, it's not a big difficult, right? Like it's
So
not rocket
let
science.
me rephrase that a bit. What would you change? So I understand GMAT is something that you would obviously want to change, but how would that have helped you? How do you believe it would have helped you? Because you already have a result despite not having the kind of score that you were hoping for, right? So if let's say instead of 635, you had 675 or 85, what would that have done for you?
I think emotionally or mentally, it would have given me a much better comfort space.
Yeah.
I would have gone into the interviews or the essays with much more confidence. I wouldn't have to do more of mental prep, which I did. And second, obviously, if because I'm sorry to be pompous, but I feel that my profile is very good. So if my score would have been there, तो शायद scholarship भी मिल जाता. So money wise, it would have helped because high GMAT score is like a very first criteria for getting a great scholarship. So I think I could have saved on few bucks if I got a good score.
It's fine. No, it's still ISB is still number 12 in the world as per the latest ethnic rankings. So
Yeah.
I think we're good there. Shreya, anything that you would change with respect to your profile if you had the chance to do over? And again, why do you think it would have helped? Uh,
I
just
think,
to clarify, it's
yeah.
absolutely fine to say no, wouldn't change
No,
anything.
I wouldn't say for the profile with the perspective of getting into an MBA college, but life is much like I know while you are applying, you feel like ye bas mil jaye Bhagwan and that's just done. But you really start understanding the weight of it once you get the admit, and then you're like, what next? So I feel like maybe the breadth of extracurriculars, like I really found interesting that Manvi does pottery. I might just connect with her after this. So like the breadth of extracurriculars in general, like you start feeling once you are closer to your like admission cycle, you start feeling, okay, how can I be an interesting person? How can I sort of contribute more than what my work ex or academics can particularly show? Because at the end of the day, it's always like people, right? It's interesting people that catch your attention. So maybe not from the perspective of an MBA admit, because I have been lucky to go to wherever I want to, but in perspective of an MBA class, right, I would want to do some pottery.
Don't connect with Manvi. Take my advice here. Don't connect with her because if you start figuring out how many activities she is involved in,
I might just go down a spiral, right?
exactly, like you will never recover from it, right? I
Yeah.
figured out pottery by chance. I didn't even know by at that point of time that they do pottery, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Because there are already more than enough things to talk about in terms of extracurriculars. Manvi, what would you change? If
Um, Honestly, nothing. And I don't think this answer would change if I was sitting with zero admits today, because my thought process is very much this is what it is, take it or leave it. I am lucky enough to have an admit, yes. But even if I didn't, yeah, I don't think that answer would change.
all right, then I'll ask you the final question and we'll close the session with that. What advice would you give, somebody who's looking for an admit this year?
Uh, Breathe. Just breathe.
थोड़ा
And
सा elaborate. Artist वाला बात हो गया है. Has gone into the realm of artistry, so if you
yeah.
could elaborate a bit.
What advice? I think I just want to repeat what I said at the beginning of the session, which is don't negotiate with yourself. Applications are very important if you want to do them seriously and if you want to make sure that you have a good school that you're going to next year. It's okay to put your life on hold for 3 months or 4 months. It's okay to make that kind of compromise in the long term. Don't compromise everything. Like, I'm not saying you should spend 14 hours of your day just doing this, not have a life outside of it. You should, but prioritize this, be consistent, don't negotiate with yourself. Don't say, nahi, kal kar lenge, aaj chill karte hain. So yeah, be consistent, breathe, and have faith. Have faith in yourself. I'm sure all of you have great profiles. If you didn't, you probably wouldn't even be thinking about applying for this kind of a degree, right? Because it's super competitive to begin with. So if you're thinking about applying for it, then it means you've done something to have that thought cross your mind. But so yeah, like I said, breathe, be consistent, and
Perfect.
it's fine. Yeah.
All right. Getting very religious here. Mahima and Shreya, what would your advices be?
I think I'll go next. So I believe that applications is a very tedious process, and you need to be very patient throughout the process. Right after you put in that click submit button, and to the interview invites, then doing the interviews, then getting a final decision. Anxiety is a part of the process. So just understand that this is normal and happens with everyone. The fact that some people are watching this webinar itself means that you are serious about this process. You take your life and you want to like make something out of it, right? So it's okay to have failures, it's okay to face rejections, it's okay to also feel anxious. It's all a part of the process. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much for that. Mahima, final parting advice.
Yeah, I think Manvi and Shreya both have covered the most of it. I think what I could leave the people with is a simple formula summarized, whatever they said, into like 4 C's. You should have clarity. You should have crisp, like whatever you are. I'll come to that. So C for clarity, crisp, commitment, and confidence. So clarity on what you want to do, like on your I think the entire 1 hour of the conversation of what we all discussed here. Crisp, because there are tons of things. How do you compress it and make that storytelling into a very like succinct format is a skill in itself. And this is, I think, what MBA schools and corporate and leadership in general needs. Commitment to whatever, be it your GMAT score, be it your application, be it your interview. It's like 1 kilo ghee खा के आप पहलवान नहीं बन सकते. It's a fact. So you have to be commitment. And fourth is confidence during the process, after you have hit the application button, and even if you don't get an admit, be okay to, try again and do that. So
Thank you so much for this. It has been absolutely wonderful talking to you, all 4 of you. Also, to our viewers, thank you so much for your patience, for listening to us for almost an hour. We'll close the session now. Also, a very quick sort of reminder, we are having sort of in-person sessions, networking sessions with MBA admits in Delhi and Mumbai on 18th and 19th of April. And it is a paid sort of event that we have, but it will be completely sort of refunded to you post the event. We have it paid simply because we have limited number of seats, and we want only serious candidates to sort of come to the event, to register for the event, so that the seats don't get wasted. But even on that, you can get a 33% discount for today, and feel free to sort of register for that. It's called Meet the Masters. We will have a lot of MBA candidates who have worked with us, who are going to some amazing B schools this year, sort of join us for the events in both Delhi and Mumbai. So we would love to sort of see you there. And thank you so much for joining again. And it has been absolutely a pleasure to have you all three and sort of connect with you and catch up with you after a very, very long time. And I wish you the best for your MBA journeys as you move forward.
thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think we have closed the session, but we are still live.